Hey, this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Cowgowan.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And this time, I was made to watch Swing Kids.
Yes, it's Swing Kids. It's, if you were an exennial, it was your introduction to the fact that Nazis are bad and swing music is cool. It was not the era when they had the Gap ads with swing music, but it was a precursor. So, yay. And it's Christian Bale being dreamy.
This laid the groundwork.
Yes.
And House's friend.
Right. And Frank Whaley, who's been in, I don't know, one movie that I know of.
Yes.
Yeah. It's Swing Kids. It's set in Germany in 1939, and teenagers are fighting off Nazis by dancing. And not much else.
Sure.
And I adore this movie. It is not a good movie, but it's great, and I adore it anyway. So yes, if you love movies that are bad, and that's why you love them, you're going to love this episode because that's the area that we are in. So Dave, what did you know about this going in?
Nothing.
Not a thing.
That's last episode we started a new feature. We're like, hey, before we watch, we're gonna do a time capsule. I knew nothing. I never heard of this movie.
No.
So there was no point in doing it this time.
The little, the text comes up at the beginning of the movie, describing it, and it's like, oh, is this a Nazi movie? Man, didn't know anything about it.
I mean, you tell me I saw Christian Bale, and so I'm just like, okay, this is like a Newsies, but swing time,
except he goes the other way this time.
Just like, what the? And like, what is this? Is I'm like, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna show you fun, dumb '90s action movies, and you're like, hey, what about Nazis?
Nazis. Well, but we dance to fight the Nazis. Anyway, so yeah, if you haven't seen this, you have no idea what we're talking about. Christian Bale and Robert Sean Leonard and Frank Whaley, who was in Swimming with Sharks, and that's all I know him from, and some other guy, are teenagers in Hamburg, Germany in 1939, and this part actually apparently did happen. There was a movement apparently it was mostly Hamburg and Berlin, where teenagers had like secret clubs where they would dance to swing music, and this was in their way of opposing the Nazi regime.
Okay.
And apparently it was kind of, we do this and we don't join the Hitler Youth.
Yeah.
So there's a nugget of truth to this. Do I think that it went this far? No, I do not. And these are like, they're basically scene kids. I mean, they are like,
sure,
memorizing trivia about Benny Goodman and Duke Ellington and Count Basie, and they listen to records and they can identify who's playing the trumpet in this, and like they're kind of annoying about it in the way that teenagers are.
Sure, yeah, they're a little bit like the original like punks.
Yeah.
But like punks were, the music compelled them to action, and this does not.
This is no. Yeah. And they, at the beginning of the movie, so it's Robert Sean Leonard is Peter and Christian Bale is Thomas, and they've been besties since forever, we think. And at the beginning, they and everybody in their crew hate the Nazis, think they're dumb, and the swing is their way of opposing them. And they have all this cutesy little, like, the Nazis say Heil Hitler and the swing kids say Swing Heil. Like, okay, I don't really.
Yeah, Swing Heil is lame.
Yeah.
But also, like, the first time I heard it, I was like, that's cool. And then they said it like
all
30 more times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when just the guy at the door of the swing club greets them Swing Heil, I was like, oh, that's funny. And then it became like the theme of the movie.
No. Yeah.
And I was like,
no,
that's not.
Well, and that they call them swing kids, or at some point someone refers to somebody as a swing boy. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like what you mean it. as, but yes, they're not involved in any resistance or protest activities other than dancing.
Yeah.
And I read a review of this in like the user reviews on IMDb, which was surprisingly well thought out. And it basically was, at this point in Germany, there wasn't the panic over the Nazis are, the Nazis. It was just, oh, boring politicians. They're no fun. It was like, I don't know, people protesting against George Bush the First. Like, not like there was any real moral imperative to protest. It was just, these guys are lame.
Yeah, like that sort of stuff comes up over the course of the movie.
Right.
But yeah, at the time, it was just, and you kind of see that happen to a couple of characters in the movie.
Yeah.
Thomas's dad, for instance, who is like voted for Hitler and is basically just like protecting his own interests.
Right.
Eventually gets caught up in it and realizes, how far it's gone.
Holy crap. That part's chilling. Yeah. So, long story, Peter, whose family is not well off, gets caught stealing a radio, and is told, okay, you need to join the Hitler Youth. It's either that or go to a work camp, because I guess it's mandatory at this stage. Every male over X age has to.
Kenneth Branagh tells him.
Yeah, right. Who apparently was uncredited in this because
Really?
because he was like, well, if you credit me, then I'm going to be the star, and I don't want to be the star, which is
yeah,
at the same time both incredibly egotistical and incredibly kind, and I don't know which one it is more. But
it seems like a very Kenneth Branagh thing to do.
Yes. He also has a bit of a British or a German accent, and everyone else has an American accent in this.
It's the accents are just
all over.
You got to commit to that or not. Like, like everyone should have just been using their native accents.
Well,
like,
maybe that's what they were.
There are characters in the movie who have an accent and characters who don't.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Christian Bale is doing an American accent.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Everybody just talking your normal voices.
Yeah.
Because so you either have to be explicitly doing the 50s, 60s thing where all of the Italians just have the mid-Atlantic MGM accent or whatever, Ben-Hur talks like, whatever. Or you have to be just forget about it. Like you got to unify under a single
or
generic
something.
accent.
Yeah.
Or, and that can just be everybody's doing American. If Bale's doing American, everybody else needs to be doing American.
Right. Yeah. I think everybody forgets Christian Bale is actually British.
Yes.
I can't remember the last time I saw him in anything where he used a British accent, but anyway, so Peter has to join the Hitler Youth, and Thomas is like, hey, I'll do it too. It'll be fun. Neither of us believes in it, and we can be swing kids at night and Hitler Youth during the day. Ha ha.
It's the perfect cover.
Right. Well, I wrote down in my notes, daddy issues like, whoa, because Peter has daddy issues because his father was disappeared under some circumstances. Basically, he wasn't anti-Jewish enough and was accused of being a communist.
He was pro-Jewish.
Well, that's what it's on. Yes.
I mean, it's not some circumstance. Like they straight up say in the movie what it was.
Okay. Do you have to contradict me?
I'm not trying to contradict you. It's just I'm wondering, like, you brought this movie and you don't seem to.
Anyway,
as you
and
were.
Thomas just hates his dad. Just
sure, he's rich and privileged.
Yeah, I mean, and it kind of is just like it's your average 16-year-old hating his dad. I don't know if it's
his dad also thinks he's worthless.
Well, yes, because he kind of is. Yeah, so Thomas finds in Hitler Youth the male role models and support that he is missing in his father, and gets sucked into it, and you can see it coming, and it comes, and eventually he is persuaded to report on his father, who is saying shiesty things about Hitler around the dinner table.
His father is just saying Hitler's incompetent and he's gonna drive us into a war,
which is
normal dissent, but you can't say that.
Can't say that. Yeah. And you see, a scene where other people are like, I was in a store and the owner was complaining about stuff going to the military and, blah, blah. I mean, these
the kids are being used to spy on
schmoes are
people.
informing on everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which I can't even imagine.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. Like, this movie is, if nothing else, this movie is a perfect demonstration of how indoctrination works
Yes.
with these kids. I mean, obviously, the character of Thomas is meant to demonstrate that, but just in general, you bring them in, you make them feel like they belong, you tell them that they're special, you tell them that we're the only ones that understand you or can provide for you or protect you, and we always will. And then you also tell them,
These other people are the problem.
foreigners are bad and they're the problem.
Yeah.
And they, we need to support Hitler. So it's a great example of that, because you see it happen throughout the course of the movie, and you understand.
Yeah. Well, and even the characters who are not explicitly getting in bed with the Nazis are still like, it's fine, just let it go. Don't, like there's a scene where one of the friends, Arvid, is in a jazz band at a club or something, and he's playing, and some German officers come in and they want him to play something. They just pass him a note with a German song, and Arvid's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to play what I want to play. And his friends are like, just play it. It's just one song. It's fine. And he says, no, because once you give in on this, then you have to give in on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah.
And he's the one who resists the most the whole time. And he has got a club foot or something. And so he limps. And if you know anything about the history of the Nazis, you know that it was not going to end well for him regardless. Because anybody with any undesirable was dealt with. He's beaten for being a swing kid, and after a while just realizes like there's no way out of this. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And so he, in a extremely dramatic move, he slits his wrists with pieces of a record that the Nazis had broken, which is a lot, but yes. And Thomas, who had once considered Arvid one of his friends, is like, well, okay, too bad. So you see how far gone Thomas is. Also, in the review that I was reading, it pointed out that Thomas's joining the Nazis was as much an FU to his father as it was seeking out companionship.
Oh, sure.
I guess I can see that. I don't know. But yeah, like there's daddy issues all throughout. And it sort of makes me sad to think about the very end of the movie. Spoiler, Peter is being taken off by the Nazis because he's been caught dancing again. And he's going to go to a camp or something. And his brother is watching the truck, and his brother who is like 10, screams to Peter, swing Heil, and they're screaming back and forth to each other, swing Heil, and the brother is just tears streaming down his face, swing Heil. And I was like, okay, that kid's not gonna grow up to be very well adjusted. Like, I lost my father, and now I've lost my brother. This is not gonna go well at all.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it went well for anybody in reality.
No,
or in the movie.
True. That's most of these characters are probably dead in 5 or 6 years.
Oh, sure.
From whatever means. But okay. On a happy note, the music here is amazing, unsurprisingly.
Sure, yeah.
And there's some great dancing. How realistic was it? I don't know. They're doing the kind of swing dancing where, all the girls' skirts fly up and they have perfectly pristine knickers and garter belts, and they flip the girls over their heads, and everybody, people will say, I can't dance, and immediately they're doing everything acrobatic.
Yeah.
And it's fun to watch. Not realistic at all, but still fun.
Yeah.
Except for right at the end, Robert Sean Leonard has realized he can't be a Nazi by day and a swing kid by night. So he chooses swing kid, and he goes to the club, and he's just dancing by himself. And he looks like George McFly in Back to the Future. Like, he's just sort of dancing. You're not meant to swing dance on your own.
Sure.
He's
It's an Ellen sort of dance, or sorry, Elaine. Sorry,
yes,
right,
that's
Ellen.
it. That's
it's
it.
an Elaine sort of dance, like just it's like a random gyration of the leg.
Yeah, and you can tell, like, I mean, he's very emotional. He's putting all his emotions into this swing dance, but it's just not really what it's meant for. So, but all the other dancing.
But that is not technically good, but it's still an emotional moment of the, it's a poignant emotional moment of the movie.
I know. And I'm not supposed to be thinking about
relying on the thing that gives him pleasure.
I'm not supposed to be thinking about Elaine, but yet I am.
Yeah.
So yeah. Here's a question. So we mentioned, there's a lot of Americans in this. Should Americans even be making this movie? I feel like, and maybe it's, that in the last 20, 30 years, more Germany has been making more movies about World War II and is kind of grappling with their own history there.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we need to leave this up to Germans.
I mean, maybe. Do you know, was anybody involved German?
I don't think so. I mean, none of the names read like German.
Jeez.
Hey now. That's not okay.
What's a German name look like, Marion? Jeez. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I think there's a case to be made, especially at this time. Yeah, Germany did not seem to be big into reliving that history. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of up to the rest of the world. But also there's a case to be made about if you're going to make a movie like a Schindler's List, for instance, mm-hmm. You not everybody in that movie had to be authentically German.
Yeah.
Obviously it was being made by Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to, I think you get the people you can get to make the splash that you can make. Like if you can get big names that aren't German, get them. Cause mm-hmm. you, on the one hand, I say, part of me says, you want to tell the story on as big a scale as possible, mm-hmm. so that as many people as possible see it.
That's true. I can't think of who is a big German name that would have done. And also in 1993, Germany was not really investing a whole lot into big splashy movies.
Yes,
so
true. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting question to ponder. It's it's the sort of question that you want to ask about, like, someone making a movie about Africa, mm-hmm. Or India or China, when it's white people making that movie.
Yeah.
But I think when it's essentially some set of Europeans or European descendants making it about a European country that they're just not from.
Well, it's a less stark contrast.
Yeah,
but I think that
it's a different.
I think when it's Americans making a movie about a country that was our enemy in this war, it's a little, but, and I think the fact that this is incredibly fictionalized does make it a little bit different, but.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting question to ask. But it's also like, it's so, it's not like asking, like, should you have a black person helming a movie about the Civil War, slavery, like, if that's the plight you're trying to portray. It's feels like it's down on a level several notches below that, and it's almost not an interesting question to answer, but it needs to be answered. Like, it's not, I don't mean not interesting. I mean, like, it doesn't feel urgent.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, some American and British people made a movie about Germany in the 40s.
Well, the other thing related to that, and I've been feeling this over the last, 10, 15 years, because I also, aside from just movie watching, I have been reading a lot of historical fiction set in World War II, and it seems like everybody in Europe was a spy. If you going by all the books about spies, there were like bazillions of spies. I feel like, was there anybody who wasn't? I don't know. And anytime you read a book that involves German characters, they're all secretly in the resistance. There's very few Germans portrayed in literature or in film who are seriously like gung-ho for Hitler. And I understand why that is not a story that anybody wants to tell, but I think that's the much more challenging one and kind of interesting at this point because we've seen the other one so often.
Yeah.
But that is something that I don't think Americans get to tell. That has to be, only Germans get to tell the story of that side. In this, they get to tell the story of Thomas and what happens to him in the next, 5-6 years. What do you do when you've informed on your father and you basically were the reason one of your friends killed himself and the other one got arrested? Like, how do you deal with that? That's a terribly depressing but also interesting story. But Americans don't get to tell that one, I don't think.
Sure. But I mean, I don't know if Germans want to tell that story. You know what I mean?
Well,
I mean, when you say like the gung ho, like those are the villains.
Yeah.
Like the reason that everybody is depicted as being in the resistance is because the other side of that is the villains. You know, I think the more interesting story that I would want to see told is the story that's a little bit told in this about the people that are just going along. Mm-hmm. Peter's mom, who was married to a resistance figure, but now has taken a more of a, like she's getting attention from Kenneth Branagh and is welcoming it because she knows it makes life easier for her children. Mm-hmm. And doesn't feel, the people who like Thomas's dad or Peter's mom who understand what's going on and compartmentalize like she even tells Peter to do this, to compartmentalize your emotions away from and your real feelings and your real motivations and your morals away from what you have to do to survive, which is the opposite of what Peter's dad would have told him. Yeah. Which was put those things into your actions. Right. Don't hide those so that you can take actions that are not aligned with your morality to survive. Better to follow your morality and not survive. Mm-hmm.
Well, and to be clear, Peter's mom is not like putting up a front and secretly, creating birth certificates for Jewish, but, which we do see someone in the movie who it's a bookstore owner who Peter works for as a delivery boy at some point, and they're delivering books. And eventually we realize there's like fake papers in there or something like that. And we realize this because the Gestapo knows about it and says, "Hey, Peter."
Or they suspect.
What's he having you deliver? Are you sure it's just books? Why don't you check for us?
Yeah, he's under suspicion, and they think Peter will be their man on the inside to figure it out one way or the other. Well, and Peter discovers it and makes the moral choice. He has one of their fake birth certificates, I'm assuming, for Jewish people. Yeah. And he tears it up and throws it away instead of taking it in. And that's kind of his moment in the movie. Like that was his teetering point. Yeah. Whether, if he understood because I don't even remember what the character's name was. I'm going to keep saying Kenneth Branagh. Mm-hmm. Kenneth Branagh brings him into a car and is like, let me set up this vacation for your family. Mm-hmm. And by the way, you work for this bookseller. And if I worked for someone and I was making deliveries, I'd really want to know what I was delivering. And if it was something uncouth, maybe I'd tell that to my friendly neighborhood Kenneth Branagh.
Just an idea. Okay, bye.
Yeah, just an idea. Yeah, bro. I'll put that in for that vacation. Okay, bye.
Kudos to the writers there. Like, nice double meaning there. Don't you want to know what you're getting involved with? Like,
yes. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, his words backfire as Peter has learned more and more about not just the lessons he's learned from the Hitler Youth, but also Kenneth Branagh's character is not a good Nazi, but is also along for the ride. Like there's a confrontational scene where they're at dinner. Branagh's at dinner with the family, and they're tempting the youngest kid with wine. Not tempting. There's like, it won't hurt to taste a little. And they're like, "Oh, Peter, won't you join us?" And he's like, "Oh, the Führer says keep your body pure."
He recites chapter and verse. Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, we're eating Polish sausage and drinking French wine," and and exposing that Branagh is he's not keeping in line with the vision. Well, he also himself is there for his own personal gain. Yeah,
he's corrupted as happens with power.
Right, not unlike the thing that I really like from a filmmaking perspective is Branagh arrives on the scene to sort of save them, quote unquote, from the block captain who is abusing his power. And when he's shown to be abusing his power, taking objects that are being seized and giving them to shop owners so they will give him free goods. And Branagh is sort of, kind of comes in and saves them from that. But the turn is Branagh is shown to be just as corrupt as the block captain who's just playing small potatoes. He's Branagh's doing it on a much higher level.
Yeah.
And is the same sort of, I mean, they're all despicable because they're all Nazis, but he is the same sort of guy. He's just in it for himself. He's just in it for what he can gain. He's not really convinced of the message. He's just there for himself. And I thought that was a really cool turnaround from, Branagh being set up as this, he's in the Gestapo. He's, set up as this like ideal of what a good Nazi should be. And then you slowly see no, actually he doesn't really follow any of the rules. He's just in this for himself.
He's, you've heard the expression velvet handcuffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is that personified. The other guy is cold metal handcuffs. And these are you're like, oh, this is a nice soft bracelet. Oh.
Well, he's velvet handcuffs, but he's also like, they're not even like, I don't know. Like I don't know how to adjust the velvet handcuffs.
You're going to pick apart my metaphor.
I don't know how to adjust the metaphor because he's not like he is velvet handcuffs, but he's also like he's just telling you have like he's saying I also have velvet handcuffs on, and he doesn't. Like I don't know how to say it, but like he's acting as an arm of the party while also not living by any of their ideals. He's like some. Government officials that one might know of who say that they believe everyone should do X and then they actually do Y.
We do not have time for that discussion today. No, we don't. I don't know. I get the feeling though that, I mean, Hitler was Hitler had this whole thing of, fresh air and exercise and, raise good German children, blah, blah, blah. And he was a vegetarian but I don't get the feeling that many in the Nazi party followed that part of it. Or maybe that's just, I've seen too many movies where they're all corrupt and they're taking food from people.
Oh yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing about a big authoritarian leader. He is almost always going to be propped up by a bunch of wealthy and influential people who don't actually agree with any of his ideas. They just know they can profit from them. I mean, Thomas's dad is one of these people. He doesn't agree with anything Hitler's doing, but he knows voting for Hitler and keeping Hitler in power is a way to keep himself in the comfortable position that he's in. So he's complicit, even though he explicitly doesn't agree, and it eventually comes back to bite it.
Or to put it another way, I don't like the things he says, but he's going to lower my taxes. So.
Right. Yes, exactly. I mean,
just as an example,
I don't believe any of that, but he's going to lower my taxes.
Yes. I wish he wouldn't talk like at the locker room all the time, but
I don't support that when he says that, but I got a tax break.
He's going to create jobs. I always love that. Like, you think other people are not going anyway, that's a whole other thing.
But I do think there's a lot of weird parallels in this movie. I don't want to get into too many of them, but there are this is the sort of movie that I feel like people should be made to watch.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it go, hey, which of these groups did you sympathize with during this movie? There are some scenes that are like the visuals that the imagery that they evoke is startling to a person now. Like there's the scene near the end where there's a guy, they're in a big room full of Nazi flags and he's speechifying and they're all the Nazi youth are standing there.
Oh, they're holding the torches.
And they're all holding torches. And I'm like, oh God.
That was
that is Charlottesville. I'm just seeing a row of properly dressed men with tiki torches.
Yep.
Just imposed over this and thinking, oh, wow, that's startling, and probably listening to a speaker that was saying something not all that different, which is
similar,
which is essentially, we accept you. We will help you. We are the ones, only together can we,
you are what Germany needs. We need more of you. We will help you be even more of what you.
So it really
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there are some glimpses in here of some of the propaganda that was used to tell people and then keep reminding them how much Jewish people were their enemy, which I am always startled by because I did not well, I don't know, I probably did have some, but I grew up with very little beliefs about there were no stereotypes about Jews in my household.
Sure.
I read, the All of a Kind family books, and Jewish people were great, and I knew that that Jesus was a Jew, and there was a synagogue near my house, and my mom was friends with a rabbi, and and like there were probably some things that crept in, but I never and so just seeing they've got like in the background of one of the scenes there's a poster of like a good German face and then a Jewish face. And the Jewish face has got a huge nose and sort of monstrous looking and blah blah. And I can't fathom how anybody believes that.
Well, but you can look at that and you can understand how if you made the right case, you can like almost sell that as a different species.
Yeah.
Like
they've done that with black people.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Like, so anybody who's listened to this for a while knows I was raised by racists, overt and casual. But my dad especially, and everybody on his side of the family, absolute, card carrying members of the KKK kind of stuff. Southern bigots that I've been exposed to were surprisingly, I know this isn't the case anymore, but in the 80s and 90s were surprisingly absent anti-Semitism. It was, Carolina's racists were almost completely focused on black people.
Really?
Yes. Like there wasn't time to like, there weren't large Jewish communities. There weren't a lot of reasons to rail against them. It was blacks and then foreigners just in general, your general foreign. That was mostly what, I mean, I believe there was a healthy dose of it, but it just wasn't, you didn't see it. So it wasn't the overt racism that I witnessed was towards black people because that was what was present. When they went to the meetings, did they talk about the evils of Jews? Probably. But it was more of just, this is what we see every day. So the bulk of our efforts are towards this.
Yeah.
So that was sort of what I grew up with. I don't know how I wish I could trace the path of how I came out of all of that. 'Cause even, I love my mother, but and I think she's made a lot of progress. She was not one of those overt racists, but it was just in the culture to such a degree. Nobody thought anything about it. It was just how it was. And I think she's made a ton of progress and, proud of her for all that. But I don't know how I made it out of all that as unscathed as I feel like I was, because it wasn't like I had tolerant role models. At best, I had people who were indifferent to the struggles of the oppressed and minorities.
You met this great woman in 2003 and she opened your eyes. No, I can't take credit. If you had been a racist that I had to reform, that wouldn't have worked.
Yes.
I would like to say it's just that you were born when you were born and time marches on and generations learn stuff, but there are plenty of our peers who are not. But
no.
But back to the movie, just like seeing the insidious way that these messages about Jews, and at one point they say gypsies, Roma, and the message was gonna come about people like Arvid with whatever, a clubfoot or whatever it was, and then probably breeds of Christians that they didn't like, and everybody, the way that those messages just come in and they're just sort of in the air, and at first you don't pay attention to them, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, well, of course these people are terrible. Why would I not think so? So it's fine that this is happening to them. It's terrifying.
Well, you're constantly exposed to it, and they were doing the thing that you do, right? You win over the young generation. You raise a generation of kids who don't think twice about hate.
Right.
Don't
even realize that it is hate.
Right. They don't realize that how they're being indoctrinated, and I think that's the way that you that you educate kids is important, and all education is indoctrination to some degree. It matters what you're indoctrinating them to do. You know, someone who's on my side of issues would say that we're raising kids to respect science and question things and use a set process of observation and experimentation to test and determine facts about the natural world. And someone who was on a different side of the issue would say, we're teaching kids to doubt God or hate whites or whatever.
Yeah. Oh no, I was watching Inherit the Wind was on the other night, and that's exactly what they're saying. Oh, he's teaching kids not to believe in God anymore. Like, no, he's teaching evolution. That's entirely different.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, on the one hand, I can understand why someone who sees their kids being taught things that they don't believe would knee-jerk say that's indoctrination. But that's a reaction of the indoctrinated. You know, like, that's to say, like, you're teaching my kid to not hate the way I hate or not question the way I question. Well, yeah, we're teaching them what we hope is a method to find truth, not we're not teaching them. And I think that's the principal misunderstanding is one group thinks you need to teach people truth, and the other group thinks we need to teach people a path to find
how to find it,
the truth. Which, you know, make no mistake, I'm on the teach them the path to find truth. I don't think you need to teach people about the atrocities that white people committed during the Civil War or slavery. I think you need to teach them how to read, and they will find that out themselves because it's well documented.
Well, I don't know. Some people are not very inquisitive, but
that's true. Well, that's true, but you can't really do anything about that.
Well, you have to teach them to be inquisitive.
Well, yeah.
We've gotten far off the topic of the Nazis. But back to Peter for a second. When Kenneth Branagh is like, oh, well, maybe you should tell us if he's actually sending books. Now, I think this is something like this is where casting people in their 20s, late 20s, some of them, to play teenagers really does it a disservice. Because you forget that these kids are young, like 16, 17, 18.
Sure.
But I'm seeing like a man and thinking, well, here's what I would do. Well, I'm completely a grown up and he's a young adult, but he's actually being a teenager. So I'm expecting more of the character than the 17-year-old really could do.
Maybe. I mean, I felt like I bought the Principal 3 as
well, hang on. But what I was going to say was what I was hoping he would do is go back to the bookstore owner and be like, so they asked me to make sure that you're only sending books. You're only sending books, right? Wink. And the guy's like, yes, I'm only sending books. Here is only a book. Why don't you look in it? And then you can go back and with a clear conscience be like, I checked. He's only sending books. But again, I think that's why I say like, that's maybe that's a more dangerous stance than you could really expect a teenager to take.
Sure. Because at that point he's a double agent now.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he ever becomes a double agent in the context of this movie.
No, he doesn't. But they were talking about this, you know, swing kid by night, Nazi by day. Like that's a double agent in a way.
Well,
it's just.
But they were talking about that. Like, I mean, that's kind of the point that was
fun double agent.
Right. The point that that's to me, that's the whole thing is when they say that they're saying what Peter's mom is saying or what Thomas's dad is saying. They're saying, hey, we can still get what we want.
Yeah.
By making them, you know, by tacitly approving of what they're doing. I mean, that's the message of the whole movie.
Yeah.
I think essentially is this is not acceptable. It's on no level.
Right.
Like these kids were able to hide what they were doing. It's the reason that the climax of the movie is him getting run out of the dance club. You know, like he's finally not trying to hide what he's doing. He's not trying to, you know, the first time after they join the youth that they get caught in a club, they run out. We can't be seen here. And then the last time he wants to be seen there effectively, like he packs up, like he knows he's not coming back.
Yeah.
When he goes, he knows he's not coming back.
Yeah. Well, and my version of this is, again, part of Europe where every single person is in the resistance and there are no actual Nazis
Right.
left.
Yeah.
So that's
you're
unrealistic.
reading that. You want that version of this
Yeah.
movie. And I think this is, I think it's more authentic that it sticks to this sort of journey
I
of
can see
discovery for a young mind.
Yeah.
Because he has to, throughout the course of the thing, find out exactly what his father was in terms of the resistance, that his father was in the early days supporting Jewish faculty at a college that were being dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
And that was enough to essentially get him arrested and tortured and disappeared for 4 months and, broken mentally and physically, so he's got to come to those realizations. So, I mean, I'm with you. I think that's a more interesting movie if he does that.
Yeah. But it is also, in my book club, we've read a lot of World War II historical fiction, and several of us have said when we're talking about the next couple of books, we're kind of like, I need a break from World War II spies. Like, after a while, it's just all the same. And that they're all made up and they're glorious and inspiring, but not everybody was a spy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the reality is it was a lot more like what's shown in this movie.
Yeah.
There are like 3 characters, 2 seen, and then Peter's father, who are like definitely resistance people.
Mm-hmm.
There's the bookseller who's providing the fake documents, and there's a woman who's having them delivered to her.
Yes, I have her in my notes as Spy Widow because I forget her name too.
Yeah, who knows some information about Peter's father. Her husband, who was killed as part of the whole deal, was his student, or either his actual student because he played the violin, or was quote his student, as in was in the resistance with him. So like there are those 3, and all 3 of those characters are like just doing a little bit that they can do.
Mm-hmm.
They're not Schindler.
No,
they're not saving hundreds. They are just passing along maybe half a dozen forged papers where they can. And even when it gets hot for the Spy Widow,
mm-hmm.
she's packing up to leave. Like she gets that it's like, okay, that I've done everything I can. And now if I stay, it's my ass or whatever.
Yeah. And I will do nobody any good if I'm strung up on my thumbs somewhere. So, you hope that she's going somewhere else to be a Spy Widow
something,
in Berlin or Munich or wherever. But I don't know. I don't, in all the various World War II movies that I have seen, I don't know if different countries do torture differently, but boy, the Germans were extremely good at it.
Mm.
And like, I would just have cyanide pills in every single pocket that I owned.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about the moment in this movie that makes every teenage girl's heart just flutter?
Oh, Lord.
So, Peter is kind of sweet on a girl at school, and I feel like there's some suggestion that she's in like the girl version of Hitler Youth, or maybe I'm making this up, but she's not a swing kid, but he talks her into coming out to one of their parties, and he's dancing, and he turns around and he sees her, and she's been very sensible looking up to this, but she's got her hair down and a pretty dress and makeup on and everything. And he says, hi. And she says, how do I look? And he gets in real close to her and he says, like gold, and swings her into a dance. And she's the person where you assume she's never danced like this before. And all of a sudden she's doing,
she just knows all the steps.
But like gold, like, oh my God. Yeah.
I'll have to hang on to that one.
Yeah. No, but I don't look like gold, so you got to be blonde for that.
Can I say like silver?
Like, just don't say like a witch.
How do I look? Witchy.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, like this was made for teenage girls. Oh boy,
yeah. It is, and it is kind of weird because it does sort of fit into that sort of, let's explore Nazi Germany for teens.
Yeah.
Kind of window, because it's not there's violence, but it's never it's super explicit. and it's
Yeah.
like the themes that because it focuses around a bunch of teens who are dancing as their main form of resistance. It's never that bad.
People are beaten up, but the worst thing that happens is the one guy, they stomp on his hand and he can't play the guitar as well, which as Nazi torture goes, that seems fairly brief and not too bad. Sorry, I lost what I was going to say. Well, and back to, again, this review on IMDb, it said it's intended for a teenage audience, and it's meant to ask them, what would you do if you were in this situation? And the answer is not much.
Yeah.
Like, I would go and dance and think that I was doing something to resist, but that's all I would do. And that's a little bit depressing to realize. And the review concludes with, like, that's why this is an important movie. And I'm like, well, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an interesting experiment as you watch this movie to think, what would I be doing in this situation? And then realize whatever you thought of is not what you'd be doing.
No.
You know, if you're a parent, you would be like Peter's mom or Thomas's parents. You would be trying to do everything you could to keep your kids safe and to just get through. Like, you wouldn't be in the resistance, as his mom is not in the resistance. No. In part because she knows what that gets. It gets her widowed.
That's true. I mean, I like to think that I would, but honestly, like, you look at right now.
Right.
What are we you know, not the same thing by any stretch of imagination, but what are we doing? Not much.
Yeah, I mean, more than some, but not as much as we could.
We had a Black Lives Matter sign in our yard. Woo, big whoop. Like, that was a big risk in our cul-de-sac.
Right.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it is. It does. And this movie does make you think, like I said, because it has some of those striking visuals that remind you of recent current events, and you see how a personality grabs people, especially people who feel, because Thomas's shtick is that his dad thinks he's worthless, and the Hitler Youth gives him a place to belong, and that's how they win him over. They win him over by showing him that he's worth something, which is something that no one has told him. It's, you know, the most recent personality goblin has told people, you know, your concerns are real. Yeah. You don't hate. You love, and you're great, and these other people are the problem. I mean, really, it comes down to give them an other to hate and tell them that they're special.
And that's still happening, honestly, to boys this age.
Yes.
Which is why I'm terrified for the next, 8 to 10 years for what's going to happen to our kid.
Oh, 100%. You have to be incredibly diligent with young boys, because all of the stuff that's tied up with masculinity. And I went through all of this because I didn't fit any of the masculine norms. I didn't like football. I didn't like any of the things that boys were supposed to like, young men were supposed to like. And I struggled with that and had to define my own sort of masculinity, and continue to do that to this day. Because even though I came around to like some sports and some typical boy things, so many of the other aspects of my personality are not. And I saw the pull of that. I saw how that people get caught up in that and how it takes people away. And I would have been a perfect candidate for someone to come along with a strong personality and engulf me because I was an outsider.
Yeah.
You got to watch out for all that stuff.
I have read, and then again, this is getting us away from the Nazis, but when do we ever turn down a chance for a tangent?
Did we watch a movie for this?
Maybe a while ago. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I have read that part of what parents today have to consider is if you go too hard, like if you discover that your son is watching, I don't know, Andrew Tate as the latest example, and you go too hard on that's terrible, that's da-da-da-da-da, then it just pushes them farther into it. And so you have to, what I've read is, don't say that's forbidden, he's terrible.
Yep.
You say, well, explain to me why you like this guy. What does that mean? And you have to be thought-provoking, which is difficult or tricky sometimes when you're dealing with teenagers. I mean, not that we even have a teenager yet, but I feel like that's difficult territory.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, when someone is telling you, hey, your parents don't understand you, no one understands you, let's say, not even say your parents, not make it that devious that they're actually going towards kids. nobody understands you, and I understand you, and people are going to tell you when they find out that you think this way that you're wrong. You know, I'm telling you now, these people they're gonna ostracize you, but I will always be here for you. I am always gonna support you. So when you go into that situation, right, and the first thing the parent does is no more, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. Oh, what did I tell you?
He's gonna be like, I told you your parents were going, and then you've lost them there. It's just like, how do you diffuse a mob of people? You call out the individuals, right? It's the same thing here. You have to call out. How do you remind someone that something is immoral? You have to ask them how it aligns with their morality.
Humanize people and things.
Yeah, just like in the mob case, you humanize the individuals in the mob. In this case, you humanize the targets of the whatever, the guru or whatever.
Or if you're a Nazi, you dehumanize them.
Yes, yeah. I mean, right. You have to, because that's what the person is doing. That's what, the voices, Andrew Tate dehumanizes women. So you have to humanize women to a young man who has been entrapped by him.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. It really all comes back to toxic masculinity.
It does.
How many episodes have we had that didn't talk about that? Not that many.
No. I mean, it does. And the thing is, that is such a loaded term, and I'm seeing a lot more people focus on, when combating that term, focus less on what that behavior means for others and how the behavior hurts men. Because as problematic as toxic masculinity is for everyone around the man, it's the most problematic for the man.
Yeah.
Because it means that he can't show emotion, and he can't have weakness, and he can't need help, and any of these things, because those are not masculine. That's the toxic part of the masculinity.
Yeah.
And all of those things enforce upon them constraints that are hurtful to them, to their mental health, to their physical health, etc. Men don't go to the hospital. Oh, well, you got a broken finger? Oh, my day, we just popped that back in place and just taped it up and went on our way. Okay, well, now I have, and that's why, granddad, your knuckles look like that.
Right. Yeah.
And you can't grip a soda can anymore.
Yeah. Oh, you had a breakup. Oh, well, you shouldn't cry. Let's go get drunk.
Right.
Oh, well, that's not.
Rub some dirt on it, essentially.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing to focus on. Just like we were talking about with, if your kid gets caught up with some hate guru, you don't focus on the effects. You focus on the hurt that it does to them, or in the case of the guru, you focus on how that's contrary to the morality that they actually hold. Whatever.
Yeah.
We're getting so far off, but just that's something that we need to see more of. So when we do talk about it, understand that like that's what it's couched in. It's that it's not that solving toxic masculinity, quote unquote, solving it, helps women and others around them. It helps the man the most, because it hurts the man the most.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I sort of felt like that was implicit, but you're right. It probably does need to be stated more explicitly, because probably there are some men who are hearing that who are like, oh, great, I can't do anything right. Blah, 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 blah,
all men who are toxic hear that, and that's all they hear.
Yeah.
You're telling someone that the traits that they have been taught that define them, their whole identity, are toxic to others. That's all they hear when you talk about it. So you've got to explain to them how it's toxic to themselves.
Yeah.
It's like explaining anything to anybody who's undertaking a harmful behavior, explaining that it's harmful to them.
It's worse for you than anyone else. Well, and nuance being anathema many times. Like it's hard to explain. Like no, it's this one behavior. It's not everything you do. It's this thing. People don't hear.
It's not your entire personality. It's how you respond to this.
Yes, it's how you deal with anger, which one hopes is not all of your life. But
right,
anyway,
twin kids.
So if Hitler's dad had just hugged him a couple more times,
I don't even get it.
We might be okay. Maybe.
I don't know.
So, So should anybody today watch this after we've kind of pulled it apart? And it's not a great movie. It was, critics hated it. Like Roger Ebert gave it 1 star and put it on his 10 most hated of the year list. Like it's not great, I mean, but I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where like, yeah, I think it is like a baby's first introduction kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I do think that it speaks to youth in a certain way because it's depicting youth. I mean, I think today's audience will appreciate it because it gives you a glimpse inside of the sort of recruiting practices that are currently happening mm-hmm. on the American and well on the right in general, but especially on the nationalist side of that. You know, when you have people who are now happy to call themselves Christian nationalists without an ounce of irony or understanding, you know, it gives you an idea of how easy it is to create an us versus them attitude and get people to go along with almost anything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think, and the stuff, the parallels to Charlottesville mm-hmm. in the visual of that one particular scene is a startling thing that someone should see. Yeah, I mean, you know, watch it. Don't expect to have, you know, watch it and then immediately watch like Schindler's List and Inglourious Bastards and like other movies that
and a
are
lot of other,
harder hitting when it comes to the actual material.
Well, there was a time when I thought that a lot of people on the left pivoted to this is just like Hitler real quickly.
Yeah.
But in the last 6 years, I'm like, nope, the parallels are there. Like you really need to study what happened in Germany and see those kernels in other right-wing movements because they're absolutely there.
And this does a good job of showing that because like you said, you're getting a glimpse into people who are just going along. Mm-hmm. And again, that's one of the themes of the movie that, you know, Arvid's story is like, if I play that German song,
right.
To, you know, essentially his objection, he gives a great speech where he's like, you know, you guys are back from war. This is your weekend off from the base or whatever. And you want comfort of the fatherland that you're supposed to be representing. If I give you that, then I'm contributing, mm-hmm. you know, if I play you the German song that reinforces your belief in the fatherland, I'm contributing to whatever you do by giving you a moment of, you know, levity or whatever in your life. Yeah. So, I mean, you want to see that. Like, if you want to see that in action, this movie has that in action. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Hitler he didn't run on exterminate the Jews, World War II.
No, he started out with, we're going to rebuild Germany after World War I in what, 29, 30?
Yeah. It was,
so like it was a long game.
He ran on everything's broken and only I can fix it. You know, he ran on make Germany great again. Like, this is the thing. These are the things to see and to witness and to understand. Yeah. Like it's real easy to make a movie about the war. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that political intrigue and all the stuff that led into that and just, yeah, like we said, the everyday Germans who were just like, well, it's not me. And of course there's the quote about first they came for the, you know, socialists and all that. And that's, everybody always forgets that part, or the communists, whatever. The first line mm-hmm. is like, first they came for the communists. And like, you forget that that's like where, you know.
That happened in the US too.
Yes, exactly. Like, right. Like they, yeah. So yeah, I mean, watch it and understand because I think it does give some perspective. Don't expect the deepest handling of the issues, but
no, yeah, it is for teenagers.
And you know, as someone who is, if you're in our age, you know, Xennial, Zennial, Zennial, whatever whatever they're calling that sort of 75 to 83, that micro generation or whatever, a 75 to 85, whatever it is. Like, cause you grew up on swing music mm-hmm. and you were exposed to it and, you know, Cherry Poppin' Daddies and Brian Setzer
Gap
Orchestra
and
Gap Khaki ads and all that stuff, you know, so you're going to get a little bit of like, and, you know, and you probably have a kid who would be an appropriate somewhere in the appropriate range to maybe watch this as I'm trying to knock over my water here.
Yeah, we did not show it to our kids. We gave them a break this time, but we're having these conversations as important to do. So, well, this concludes our seminar on Marion and Dave tackle geopolitics and tell you how to fix everything in the world via 1993 movies. But folks, we would love to know what you think about the movie, about our opinions. You can tell us we're wrong if you'd like. Just do it nicely or it'll hurt our feelings. You can reach out to us in a couple different ways. by email or Twitter or Facebook. Our handle is the same for all three. It's YSMY Podcast, YSMY for You Show Me Yours. You can DM us on Twitter or Facebook, or you can send us an email at gmail.com. Also on Twitter and Facebook, if you look at our feeds, we post links to our newest episodes. We come out every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, no matter when you're listening, there'll be a new episode. If you are not a social media person, but you still want to get the latest episodes, we're on most of your major podcast providers, specifically Apple Podcasts. And if you're at your provider, we would love it if you would rate, review, and subscribe. If you subscribe, you get the latest episodes right in your queue. And if you rate and review, it helps other people find the podcast. Because are they looking in the category for movie reviews or for like academic treatises? I don't know. We could try and climb up the charts for either one. And as I said, episodes every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, Dave is hosting. And what are we watching next time, Dave?
Well, the season of dumb 90s action movies will continue.
We're getting whiplash here.
Yes.
Dumb action.
Nazis. Singing, dancing Nazis.
Right.
So there was talk of Anaconda in the previous episode, the Congo episode. So I thought, why not just watch Anaconda? I love Anaconda because it is one of those great cheesy action movies. Okay. It has another wonderful accent performance from Jon Voight.
Okay.
It's got an early Owen Wilson appearance. Ice Cube is in it. Wow.
Yeah.
Ice Cube is in it. Jennifer Lopez,
okay. So just to clarify,
pre-J-Lo, I think this was right around the time of becoming J-Lo.
Yeah, there was a period where she did some interesting movies and then not. Is this the same Anaconda who don't want none unless you got buns, hun, or is it a different one? That's his cousin.
That's a common misconception.
Okay. Okay.
It is the same Anaconda, but by this point he's moved on to that. He understands, but seeing Jennifer Lopez reignites, and that's what sets off the plot of the movie. They go by on the boat, and he sees the cake, and he's like, I must eat it.
He sees the buns, and he's like, oh well.
He says, oh, hun.
Wow, he says.
Yes.
Wow,
Says, wow.
Some buns. Okay.
Ciao.
J-Lo, we apologize.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, Anaconda from whatever in the 90s year it was from. I don't know the year off the top of my head, but it's dumb.
Okay.
It is a stupid movie.
Okay.
And that is the point of the next few weeks of my picks.
We're in the season
do
of the year where it's all dumb movies.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, we will see you in 2 weeks with Anaconda. In the meantime, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. The You Show Me Yours theme song is Uplifting Electronic Indie by Winnie the Moog from filmmusic.io. Hey, this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Cowie Owen.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where Mary comes. Don't do that. Don't mouth it while
I'm prompting you.
You're messing me up.
Okay, no prompts.